Coming up on Tech News Today, Kindle takes their app to the cloud. Take that, Apple. Also, wireless data is getting hacked all over the place, and DARPA goes Mach 20. All that and more coming up.
Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is TWiT.
Bandwidth for Tech News Today is provided by Cachefly at CACHEFLY.com.
This is Tech News Today for Wednesday, August 10th, 2011. Tech News Today is brought to you by Squarespace.com, the fast and easy way to create a high-quality website or blog. For a free trial and 10% off your new account for 6 months, go to Squarespace.com and use the offer code TNT8. Welcome to Tech News Today. I'm Tom Merritt.
I am Sarah Lane.
I'm Iyaz Akhtar.
I'm Darren. I'm Jason Howell.
We're talking this way because there's no news.
Yeah,
This
it's
is
very scary. No news.
Those of you who've been
There's
following the tech
news.
news for years, you know this. But to the little ones in the audience, let me just tell you the facts of life. In August,
You take the
everybody
good, you
takes
take
a
the
break.
bad.
Everyone
Ides
goes
of
on
August.
vacation, and companies are like, we don't want to put in any tech news because there's nobody out there. So
There you have the summer slump.
stuff happens. Like
The
we get
summer
hacks.
slump.
Thank God for DEF CON and Black Hat creates a little news. But there are those days in August where you're watching Tech News Today for the family feel. To just, check and see how your friends
Nothing
are
like
doing.
explaining the first 5 minutes
way
not
to
to
sell
watch the
this
episode. So thanks for watching this episode of Tech News
This is
Today.
gonna suck.
That's a short way of saying thanks, everybody.
I think it's going to be a great show.
I think it's going to be a great show. I'm just saying. You may not like the news because it's all Apple. Apple, and this one's a repeat. Apple is suing a tablet maker for Android for a community design infringement in Germany.
But this is news because
So
it's a
take
different company.
That's right. It's a different company. Take Samsung Galaxy Tab from yesterday, replace it with Motorola Zoom, and they don't have the injunction executed yet.
Right. That's pretty much the entire story right now.
Okay. There we go. So,
And the funny thing is, this was found in the complaint when Apple filed it against Samsung. That was the thing. When that
But they
complaint
don't-
went public, it was like, oh, by the way, we were suing these guys, but nobody was reporting that. And then since it's August, it popped up.
But it's kind of interesting because the Galaxy story was, it's because the tab looked so much like an iPad. So specifically, they've just taken it a step too far. But then when you include the Zoom into this, it's like, no, Apple just wants Tom to eat his lunch.
And I was arguing this on Google
That
Plus
looks really good.
this
I
morning.
got very distracted.
ham sandwich.
That I think there's a way for tablet manufacturers to differentiate their devices. I mean, if you look at televisions, they're all pretty much the same right now. They're all flat, they're black, and they either change the bezel, or they go to silver, or they add a touch of color. Even Samsung did that, or they remove the bezel as far as they can. So can't companies actually do something to differentiate their tablets to the point where an iPad, which is off, next to a Zoom, which is off, next to a Samsung Tab, all look different? Can't they look different by doing anything?
Well, the Zoom does not look like the iPad.
No,
Based on-
you know what the Zoom looks like? Looks like a tablet. Maybe
Yeah.
I bet the Apple just wants to squash anybody that's coming out with a tablet.
Well, that's
maybe?
the thing. It's like, how far do you have to go to make sure that no one's confusing your product with
Well,
an
they could just
iPad
add,
for
they could
Apple to
etch
be
the
okay
glass
with us?
on the bezel. At least do that and like go put some crazy design
But
on
I'm
it.
Why
sure
do you have to?
Yeah, I'm sure
Well, yeah,
Motorola's
Samsung,
like,
why do you have to?
I
It's
don't need
confusion
to
in the
add
marketplace.
this
It
whole
isn't
extra
confusing
step.
in the marketplace. I
There
will
is-
admit there may or may not be confusion with the Samsung Galaxy Tab. I don't think there is, but it definitely looks close to the iPad. So I see they have a case. I don't look at the Motorola Zoom and think, oh, is that my
Are you-
iPad? No.
Are you the reasonable customer or are you the educated customer? That
I'm
might
a
not be the
reasonable
standard?
customer. I've got an iPad sitting on a coffee table next to a Zoom. It's happened in my house. True story. And I have not mistaken them.
What about
Well,
the
one's 16
playbook?
by 9
do
and
you,
one's,
do you confuse the
4 by
iPad
3.
with the playbook?
No, Playbook's different size. That's even
Yeah.
farther away.
That's true.
Unless you have a perspective problem. You can't tell the size. You're like,
Right.
That's
is that
right.
an iPhone? No.
That's
a tab.
I need glasses to correct. I can't tell.
But that's the current story.
So
right
maybe
now.
that's what Apple's like, the size has to be significantly
There
different
is-
or we're going after
There
you.
is a more sinister thing. A story I read out there saying that Apple's doing this just to get more market share in Europe as a head start. They're saying, oh, by the way, you know that nice Samsung you got there? Can't sell it. And then people keep buying Apple stuff. And they go, oh, you know that Motorola thing you got there? Can't sell it. So people buy Apple while they're waiting. So it's just kind of like people have burning a hole in their pocket, and they end up buying.
They want a tablet, and
Yeah.
if that's really the only thing
That's
that they
possible.
can get, that's good. They can't get a tab. They can't get a Zoom. I don't know. I feel like if they wanted an iPad, they'd get an iPad. I don't. Apple seems very whatever. If collectively, I think the company's being a big bully right now.
Our next story is about the Kindle Cloud Reader. This does relate to Apple because it's a way to get back at Apple. I'd love to relate some of the details to you, but can you take my screen, Jason?
Yeah.
I don't know why this is happening.
Like to see the screen.
My Chrome browser. It's not the Snap screen. It's just I've got several stories all over each other. I've never seen that. Oh, if I zoom in, it goes away. But look, it's redacted.
That's so important.
You can't read those parts. Here, I'll just zoom in. Here we go. Yeah. So this morning, Amazon launched its Kindle Cloud Reader. It's a web-based app that allows you to read your Kindle ebooks from Safari or Chrome on your PC or tablet, including the iPad. Now, apparently it doesn't work on all the Android tablets, although it works on a lot of Android phones. And it doesn't work on iPhone, but it does work on the iPad. But anyway you look at it, it's a way to have a link to the Kindle store in your app when you're on your mobile device.
Right.
So they're getting around that Apple stipulation that says, well, if you have a link to your store, you have to use our in-app purchases and share 30% of your profits with us.
It also runs on Chrome or Safari, so Chrome OS, for example. That would be another great place for this to run.
I absolutely applaud this. It's HTML5 and the way that HTML5 is supposed to be implemented. I mean, sure, don't get me wrong. All right, so the iPhone's not displaying it properly yet, but,
that just means that Amazon's looking for the user agent string, and they're like, okay, well, this is the iPad. We're going to serve it.
Why does this stuff not work? If these are HTML5 compliant browsers and they write this in HTML5, shouldn't it work on all the browsers? Isn't that the idea of the standard?
Remember when they said that about CSS, and then you had to have that string that would say, oh, are you Internet Explorer 6? Because we've got a hack JS for you.
Yeah, well, that was because of the IE6, though. I mean, this is supposed to be. That was not a standards compliant browser by any stretch.
Right,
these are supposed to be.
You're right. So it is either the browser that's not compliant with the way that it's displaying it, or it's the code that's written that's not compliant with the spec.
And Kenny D points out
they're just trying to test in two major browsers first.
Kenny D points out they're still implementing the standard, but you shouldn't have to test if it's a standard.
Yeah.
If you're meeting the standard.
That's the idea.
What I love about this is most of the articles I've read about this is, wow, Amazon's sticking it to Apple. But it's like, this is what Apple suggested that companies do from the get-go.
No, you know what? Actually, even before that, what's interesting about this is what Apple suggested developers do before they allowed applications for the iPhone. They were like, oh, yeah, just write your web app. It's going to be great.
So, Sarah,
you wrote a web app.
You actually tried out the iPad version of the Kindle, right? The web app? How was
it? It worked really well. It's a little less snappy than the actual Kindle app on the iPad, but nothing that would ruin your experience. And then, of course, you have to consider you're still within a browser. So if you want something that's really clean, then maybe it'll look a little bit more messy, or just some stuff that you don't need to see when you're reading. But for the most part, especially if in-app purchasing is really important to you, it's 100% the way to go.
Do you think somebody would actually take the Kindle Web App and buy the book through there, and then for offline reading have to use the Kindle app? Is that just kind of breaking the experience if you're trying to use something like that? Or
I don't know. It's kind of nice to have choices, I think.
Yeah. For me, what this is adding to the experience is making me a lot more apt to buy a Kindle book, knowing that it's kind of using a standards-compliant HTML kind of thing where I can read it on whatever device, and I'm not locked into different applications. And say the Playbook, they don't have an app for that, or a new device comes around and it's all like based on Symbian or something, and nobody's going to support it. Well, guess what? It's got a web browser that's supported.
I can't wait for HTML5 to get out of draft so that I can stop complaining about that, because once it's out of draft, it should work the way I'm expecting it to work. In the meantime, this is one of those early indicators, and we don't know if it's going to continue, but there's a Voodoo app out there for the iPad that is also a browser app that allows you to watch your Voodoo videos without having to go through the App Store, without having to live within the restrictions of the App Store and in-app purchases. So I think that we're starting to see the tip of the iceberg of how people are going to avoid the App Store when they can, because they have in-app purchases. And I don't know for sure whether Apple cares. I don't even know how big that iceberg is going to end up being either. But Apple, they don't make their money off the App Store. For all the people who are like, yeah, of course they want to cut because they want to make all this money. They make their money off the devices. So if web apps take off, no skin off Apple's nose. They still sell iPhones and iPads.
Exactly, because you don't have Apple coming down on you and saying, oh, we're denying that because it's duplicating functionality or anything like that. You don't have to deal with draconian Apple. You just make the app and, hey, guess what? Then it's going to run on all the platforms. That's one of those things that, like, remember Apple hated on Adobe when they came out with that that version of, I forget what, but the new thing in the Creative Suite that allow you to cross-compile to Android and iPhone. I'm all for HTML5 and the idea that, hey, write it for all the platforms, write it for the web.
You know what? Maybe this is going to save Apple tons of money in PR costs because they don't have to explain all those things. We denied Google Voice because of this. Whatever. They don't have to deal with that anymore.
Yeah.
That's probably going to save them a ton of money.
All right, we got several stories on wireless hacking. MIT reporting that researchers plan to show off today, that would be August 10th, information that can be sent over GPRS, that General Packet Radio Service, a standard commonly used to send data to and from mobile devices, can be breached.
Yeah, this is coming out of the Chaos Computer Camp in Berlin, and it's going to be exciting to see, hot off the heels of, as we know, GSM being hacked, GPRS being kind of a complementary service to it that does, data. And that would be really exciting to see because a lot of these cellular hacks, like a lot of this stuff was just like people like saying, oh, well, don't worry about it. It's security through obscurity. Who's ever going to have the technology to intercept, to inject, to do stuff with that data? And, well, it turns out these folks at the Chaos Computer Camp are going to be demonstrating how to do it with just like, what, $10 worth of equipment?
Yeah, there's now, is this different from the Girltech IMME hack, which is a Mattel toy? You know, that's $30, so it's 3 times as expensive as the GPRS.
Well, here's the thing, though. It's really interesting how both these stories are very similar in the sense that, okay, so the other one, the one with the Girltech toy, the $30 toy that can use the P25 or the Project 25 radio protocol.
That's what Homeland Security, FBI, Secret Service all use.
Right, and the police. And
so you can use a Mattel toy to jam the Secret Service?
Yes.
And the FBI?
Yes. And you know why? Because the protocol was written in a way where it doesn't use digital spread spectrum, and it just uses a tiny piece of metadata that it transmits, basically kind of like a clear to talk. And you could transmit over that and basically do a denial of service attack on this. But what's more interesting that ties both of these together, the GPRS hack and the P25 hack here, being that basically they're 2 different radio technologies that up until now hackers haven't had a viable or an inexpensive way to actually start playing with. And then once they do, well, then, all bets are off, because the idea of security through obscurity, like, oh, well, nobody's ever going to be on our frequency. Well, guess what? We're on your frequency.
Yeah, the FBI should never engage in security through obscurity.
Well, yeah, what's really funny about this is the Secret Service and the FBI and all them using this protocol without encryption. Because who's going to be on those frequencies?
I'm stunned and yet not stunned.
I'm just thinking a bunch of hackers carrying around this big IME purple pink thing, just walking around. You're like, well, that guy.
That's a little weird.
Would you be carrying this device?
Dude, whatever. It's cute. Dude, hacking and cute go together.
Yeah.
Coming from the guy that sells a Wi-Fi pineapple.
Thankfully, LTE, GPRS, we can move off of that. We can get to LTE, we can get to WiMAX, and CDMA is a different data those are all safe, right?
Yeah, those are safe. No, actually, a big rumor around the conference, I was just at DEF CON over the weekend, and the 2 big rumors were that, one, CDMA/4G had been hacked. Coderman on the DEF CON mailing list is actually reporting this. And I'll be watching this to see, as more people get involved. The story is just kind of now breaking. The idea being that Code Division Multiple Access, or CDMA, the technology that carries your text messages and your voice calls on Verizon and Sprint, compromised, as well as the latest 4G. No details on whether that means LTE or HSPA Plus or WiMAX. But another rumor out of DEF CON was actually that on the roof of the Rio, that a fake cell tower had been installed.
This is why I don't go.
I was up there. There was plenty of cell towers.
Or if I ever
you can't really tell which one's a rogue.
I'm bringing pad and paper.
I actually brought just that. No, seriously, that's how you do it.
That is the way you go. Yeah.
It's been hacked. Wait a second. No. Somebody else has written in it.
Yeah.
All right, let's take a quick break and thank our sponsor, Squarespace, the fast and easy way to create a high-quality website or blog. Easy-to-use UI for creating and managing a website or blog. We even have a listener to TNT who wrote in about their experience in using Squarespace.
Yeah, Mark G writes in to say that he has been using Squarespace as a place for his Kickstarter project. It's over at storyposters.squarespace.com, and he's using it in conjunction with his Kickstarter project to do a gallery. Since it's super easy, you just whip in a gallery, and you don't have to worry about spikes in traffic. And he's just going to have it for a month, and when the project's over, he's going to lapse or swap out for the next project.
Good example how you can go to Squarespace. You just start it up without a credit card, create your site, try it for free, import your old blog if you want. You can bring it in from WordPress and Blogger and TypePad. And if you feel like, I don't want to do that because what if I have to pull it back out? You got data portability. So no reason not to try it with your idea. You could be doing Kickstarter ideas and making money off of it. Try it out for free. And if you decide to purchase the service, because you're a TNT listener, you get a discount. Offer code TNT8. Get 10% off for 6 months. That's squarespace.com. Use the offer code TNT8. We thank Squarespace for their support of Tech News Today. Apple again. This time getting sued for conspiring with publishers against Amazon to fix prices higher. The essence of the claim is that publishers coordinated with Apple in 2007, or to nix the low-price ebooks that Amazon launched in 2007, because Amazon has done this with print books, right? They sell books for less than they're paying for them to get people in the gates, get people used to buying books from Amazon, and then they start making money off of other books. The court filing observes that they tried this with Kindle to gain quick market share, and they sold out of Kindles in a day, and capitalizing on this first mover advantage, Amazon sold ebooks at prices conspicuously lower than physical books. Many titles were available for $10.
Yeah, Iyaz, maybe I'm a little naive to this. You would probably be the best one here to explain it to me. Is there anything illegal about doing a loss leader?
A loss leader? I don't know.
Yeah, but
my whole background is tax, so that's the first thing I'm going to say. Second thing is with this whole thing, anytime you have a bunch of publishers or anybody agreeing to do something together, the word collusion is going to get thrown out right away.
The lawsuit is not against Amazon for doing the loss leader. The lawsuit is against Apple and the publishers for bullying Amazon into raising their prices. Right?
As I understand it, yeah.
What if somebody were to ask, okay, well, the price that publishers charge a company to have access to their books is the price that they choose to charge. So if they're charging Amazon, whatever the price was for the book, and Amazon wants the Kindle to catch on, this is the time period they were talking about when the Kindle had first launched, and it was really popular. They wanted people to be like, oh, wow, ebooks, I want to get familiar with those. That's up to Amazon to choose whether to sell at a greatly reduced price.
But essentially,
they didn't have to do that.
The publishers acted allegedly in concert to deny Amazon access to the books unless they changed the deal. There's different ways of selling. There's a wholesale model and a retail model. Amazon was using the model that benefited them so that they could charge the $9.99 because they got to choose the price because they were acting as a wholesaler.
Right.
Whereas, usually what the publisher does is we set the price. I'm sorry, we're going to be the retailer. We're going to be the wholesaler. We're going to set the price. 5 major publishers allegedly acted together to increase ebook prices and compel Amazon to abandon its discount sales strategy, and that antitrust lawsuit has been filed in the U.S. District Court for the Northern District of California by the Huggins-Berman Litigation Group. And is Apple also named in this as well? Or
I'm not sure right now.
Yeah.
But I'm just kind of curious, do you think the strategy, if they did do this, does this even work? I mean, people are using Kindles over using something like iBooks anyway, so...
That doesn't matter, though.
I'm just kind of curious.
What the publishers did was say, look, Amazon, you can't buy books from us unless you change to a model where we dictate the price. And up to then, Amazon was saying, we'll pay you your price. It doesn't matter. We're going to act as a wholesaler, and we'll set the price that we charge the end user. And the publisher said, nope, that's not okay anymore. We're actually going to dictate what price you can sell it for.
And you're right, Apple was named as a defendant.
Okay. Anyway, so I think there's a case here because of all of the publishers doing it, one after the other. If you can show any evidence of any kind of
an agreement can be done by action, so it's possible. But this is going to take I bet this is going to take about 2 years to shake out.
Yeah, we'll be following this one for a while. Maybe we can get all the court dates scheduled in August. So at least we have something to talk about. Sprint Nextel plans to enter cloud services in the fourth quarter. An executive told CNET today they'll offer small and medium-sized businesses and large corporations hosted collaboration services, such as software security applications, internet hosting. Also be selling its infrastructure as a service, which can be purchased at an on-demand model. This is not unusual for companies of all types that have infrastructure to get into cloud services. But again, Sprint following the lead of diversifying, finding other ways to make money other than the post-paid contract-based cell phone business, which they see dying, essentially, if AT&T is allowed to buy T-Mobile.
It makes a lot of sense. I mean, they're a corporation that has a ton of infrastructure, and, you know, being in telecommunications, you think about, okay, so think about, like, this is kind of very similar to, like, Amazon EC2, right? And in the sense that it's like offering cloud services, rent out, you know, what kind of bandwidth and what kind of server overhead and stuff you need, when you need it and whatnot, and scale, all that fun stuff, right? Well, it's, you know, you think about like the company that all they have to do is like buy the, you know, like that has a really good ability to buy hardware, but then who do they have to go to then to get their data center hooked up? One of the telcos to get online. If you are that telco, well, there you go. You know, the bandwidth is cheaper. It sounds like they're in a good position to launch this service.
Yeah, and Sprint will be running it themselves. Verizon acquired Terramark for $1.4 billion to get into this business. AT&T offers the services, but they partner with other companies. They don't offer it themselves.
Is this, like you were saying, is this a smart move for Sprint to go into everything else? Or are they really just kind of bracing for the impact of AT&T and T-Mobile being one unit, and there's Verizon, and Sprint's got to try like everything they can under the sun to make everything work? I mean, it seems like it's a good idea for them in the long term, but I mean, is this them just grasping at straws?
Well, if they can offer services for a lower cost than Verizon or AT&T, for example, that obviously spend a lot of money either acquiring companies or spends money working with other companies, then as a small business, I would say I would like to choose the cheapest option.
It also makes sense as a small business because they already have like business plans, so they can just kind of tie it in with that.
I think that they have to do this, to answer your question, Iyaz. I think they if I was an investor in Sprint, which I'm not, I would want to see them moving into these kinds of safe markets, cloud services, LTE wholesaling, all, you know, more prepaid businesses, all these things that they actually have shown strength in, or are markets where there's a lot rife with opportunity to expand into, rather than have them sitting there just bemoaning the fact that they can't compete on the contract sell basis with AT&T and Verizon. So yeah, it may be grasping at straws, but these seem to be wise moves. Yeah, each one of them.
It's not like the RIM's approach of we're doing everything fine, it's perfect, everything's great, it'll be fine. They're trying new and different things,
and it seems like just kind of a natural evolution in their business. You know, they already have, you know, the infrastructure. It's very similar to what they're already doing.
Exactly, playing on their strengths.
Yes.
Yeah. Finally, Sanjay gave the keynote speech at an Oppenheimer conference on technology that happens every year, and talked about how he's open to everything. Ice cream sandwich, Windows 8, Windows Phone 7. I love them all. Is that pretty much what he said?
I think you can say that whether or not you had any intention of going into business with
well, I mean, a lot of manufacturers...
Windows 8, for example.
A lot of manufacturers, like Samsung and HTC, do the Microsoft stuff and Android, so it's not that crazy to think Motorola could be another one of those manufacturers. But what it is, it's just when the CEO starts saying that, effectively it's like playing footsie with Microsoft, saying, "Hey, come on, how about us? We would definitely do a deal if you gave us the same deal with Nokia."
I can't see us totally abandon Android, but we're open to your offer. It's like, you know, just trying to play all the fields. I guess that's smart. It's what you want to do.
I don't know how Google feels about that, but you know.
But again, even if he wasn't open to it, I mean, what would be the point of saying, absolutely not? We are not open to any sort of a deal with Microsoft. I mean, that would just be burning a bridge.
One thing I found more interesting is how he said to expect more tablets in the second half of the year with a much more aggressive form factor. I don't know if that means spikes on them or something.
Would you confuse that with the iPad?
Yeah,
Here's the question.
exactly.
If you have spikes on this thing,
Or maybe some steampunk form.
Here's
Racing
how you
stripes.
can tell the difference. Ours are aggressive.
Ours
They'll
will
hurt.
cut you.
You know those ornaments they put on the backs of trucks to make them look more manly? I'm just saying, tablets.
He also said unique enterprise features, which I think that's one area tablet makers feel like they could compete with the iPad is in the enterprise. And this is, I think, the smartest point, focused on cheaper Wi-Fi only tablets. Because one of the reasons the Nook is so popular right now is because a lot of people look at it as a cheap Wi-Fi only Android tablet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I've been looking at it just for that exact reason, especially with the rooting and hacking and all that fun stuff. But, you know, it's one of those things where it's like, oh, you really want the connection everywhere, but, dude, at what cost?
Yeah, there was an article a couple of days ago, someone saying that no one's buying the 3G tablets at all because having another data plan is just too expensive. Either you can start carrying a Wi-Fi or you're going to be looking for Wi-Fi spots all day.
Yeah, and even carrying the Wi-Fi or just having a smartphone where you can tether to, even that's cumbersome.
I think a lot of people are used to Wi-Fi tablets. I mean, even some of my iPad friends who don't have 3G iPads, they do go, oh, that's really cool when there's no Wi-Fi, and I say, oh, but I have 3G. So
What do you mean? There's always Wi-Fi
It's always
around.
fine. I don't have to pay
As long
for
as you have a 5-foot antenna.
in-flight where I'm sitting on the runway.
Larger than the notebook.
No. I mean, there's Wi-Fi for you guys. It's available right here. I'm just saying.
from Darren's.
Yeah,
Direct
connect to
Darren
Darren's
to
Wi-Fi.
you.
Anyway.
But in general, as Wi-Fi gets more prevalent,
Yeah,
I think it's pretty easy to rock a Wi-Fi tablet.
Well, and that's
not
why I
be-
buy a hotspot, one of the mobile hotspots, which I used to mock when they first came out. And now I totally get them, the MiFis and the Sierra Wireless overdrives, because then it doesn't matter. You can buy all Wi-Fi only devices, and you have your single hotspot with you. It's not as convenient as just having that 3G built in. I'll give you that, but
at the end
it
of the day,
saves
you're
you
not
money and it
getting three
works.
bills. Yeah.
Exactly. Let's move on to the news feed. Yesterday, news made the rounds that Anonymous would be attacking Facebook on, remember, the 5th of November. ZDNet wanted to get the bottom of this and is reporting that the group that wants to take down Facebook does not speak for Anonymous as a whole. A message on the group Anon Twitter account says, quote, no one can speak for the whole of Anonymous. There are some Anons who support Op Facebook, whilst others do not. AnonOps has also tweeted that Op Facebook is a fake. They say, we don't kill the messenger. That's not our style. So we don't even know if this is a splinter group, the real Anonymous, or something else.
I really liked your robot voice.
Thank you.
You're very good.
A little too good.
When Microsoft announced that it was acquiring Skype, people immediately thought, okay, so Skype's going to be integrated into Microsoft products, right? Well, Skype's VP, Neil Stevens, is shedding some light on some of those details. He says Skype will be integrated tightly with Windows Phone in a way that Skype couldn't accomplish on other mobile OSs like Android or iOS. He also suggested that Skype wouldn't even be an app on Windows Phone, but something that's actually built into the device so you could access Skype from anywhere, including a browser.
In fact, Windows Phone won't have a phone application except for Skype.
Yeah, that is how you call it.
That is the phone.
Well, that's the
So
future.
clean up.
Actually,
What's
that's
a
not
phone
what
call?
he said.
No.
It got close.
Yeah, guys, this is sad. You hear about this? Verizon is reporting that some of its services have been sabotaged, and that some of the fiber optic. Come on, guys.
Fiber optic
Sorry,
lines were cut.
Yeah, thank you. Moving around the document is fun. That some of the fiber optic lines had been cut on the East Coast, and that this led to problems in Verizon's telephone, internet, and television services. And also, some of the equipment in New Jersey was affected because New Jersey, which affected the police department, has been stolen, and that Verizon is offering a $50,000 reward to find the perpetrators. And if you think that the striking unionized workers are to blame, well, the union reps said, we don't do that, and nobody in the union leadership supports any of that.
Of course they'd say that.
Yeah.
You know, the world's moved on to all kinds of iPhone 5 speculation, but there's still iPhone 4 fallout. Remember that whole iPhone 4 leak where Gizmodo bought a prototype, and there was an iPhone 4, and there was like doors busted in, computers seized, bars, all kinds of fun stuff.
iPhone prototypes.
Yeah, exactly. Well, the San Mateo County DA has filed misdemeanor charges against 2 people for the stolen iPhone 4. Named in the release were Brian Hogan and Sage Wallower. The DA's statement also said that, quote, after consideration of all the evidence, it was determined that no charges would be filed against employees of Gizmodo. So they're all breathing a sigh of relief.
Expect the harassment suits soon to come out of Gizmodo. Mary Jo Foley found out some details about the upcoming Windows Phone Tango. That's the one that's going to come out after Mango. Microsoft has a weird naming convention here where they just end it with O. They can have anything
Windows
as long
Phone
as
8
it's O.
is Apollo.
Exactly. And there's the Metro interface. Anyway, according to Foley's source, Tango is all about Nokia, and the OS is meant to bring about lower-cost Windows Phone devices from Nokia. Other rumors have Tango being focused on the Asian market. So, is Tango more like Windows Phone Starter Edition, or maybe a very optimized version of the OS? We'll just have to wait and see.
We know that you're really sick of us talking at length, at nauseum even, about advances and SATA.
Oh, yeah, SATA drives
Every day.
all the time, every day.
That's as in capital
More
SATA.
SATA. Like, can you have a little Apple coverage, for God's sakes? Quit covering SATA drives.
I just missed the parallel ATA, to be honest.
Am I the only one who says SATA?
I don't know. I always say
SATA.
SATA. Yeah.
SATA.
SATA?
You say SATA?
Sometimes.
I say SATA. Let's call the whole thing off.
All right, and that's the show.
Well,
about
anyway, I just want to talk a little bit more about SATA drives because we can't help ourselves. What can I say? So SATA IO, that's the organization behind SATA, has announced 2 new standards. SATA Express is going to bring 8 gigabits per second to 16 gigabits per second, and is coming later in the year. The other standard is SATA USSD, and it's like that little backwards
micro,
U. Yeah, micro SSD that introduces another connector which allows for stacking single chip drives directly onto a motherboard.
Ooh, that's actually really sexy.
And that
On the
concludes
Movo.
your SATA, or SATA, or SATA for the day.
SATA.
And there's a little-known company called Apple, and they're not pleased with the displays LG is providing for the iPad 2 and is looking for other vendors. Here's the crazy part. According to Boy Genius reports, Apple might actually turn to its current legal sworn enemy, Samsung. Samsung was previously Apple's go-to maker for displays, but the current litigation between the two should make this seem less likely. The big winner here could be a company called Chimay Inolux.
It's pronounced SATA.
It's-
I mean, Chimay Inolux.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, gather around. You, sir, would you like some Spectrum?
Yes.
Well,
Can I?
I'm good.
Do you have any?
Can I have some
you're
more?
in luck because the FCC has announced that it's making the 650 megahertz frequency available as part of its broadband acceleration initiative. And the move is supposed to help with 4G rollouts. And the FCC hopes that it would spur job creations, save the economy with job creations and faster wireless speeds. Good idea, huh?
Are you trying to compare the FCC to snake oil salesmen?
Yes, I am.
Yeah.
Felt like I was at the circus. That was
Arnold
fun.
Parker. All right.
The Associated Press did some number crunching and found that 8 of the 9 largest subscription TV providers in the U.S. lost over 195,000 subscribers in the second quarter of this year alone. Where are these people? How would you lose them?
They're hanging out with your caster.
To put that in some perspective, that's only a 0.2% loss. Analysts disagree with the AP's numbers, citing a quarterly loss closer to 400,000. Time Warner thinks that internet video has very little to do with cord cutting.
No one's watching that.
They point to the economy as a reason for the diminishing number of subscribers. You know, they could both be right. The economy might be pushing people to cut the cord and watch internet video. I'm just saying.
Or internet video could be
that's-
awesome like
that's
this.
Yeah.
Most of the reason that I
Or
did.
even awesomer.
Save some money.
Yeah.
That's good.
All right, let's move on to the Cisco earnings. 36% down. Sorry, Cisco. On to the randomizer.
Randomizer.
Sarah, you feeling the need?
For
Speed!
I'm feeling an increased need for speed. In fact, I'm thinking Mach 20.
Mach 20.
Yeah,
That's crazy.
does anyone know how
That thing goes
fast Mach 20
mad.
is?
It's
Like 13,000 miles an hour.
You're right.
Yeah.
It's 20 times the speed of sound, in fact, Darren. It's really fast. And the Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency, also known as DARPA,
The folks who brought you the internet.
like those people.
showed off the Falcon Hypersonic Technology Vehicle 2 for the second and final launch, actually, this morning from Vandenberg Air Force Base in California. According to DARPA's site, the aircraft went into the atmosphere via a rocket, flew around for 30 minutes, and it's still kind of in a proof of concept phase. But imagine, in a number of years, being able to get from JFK to LAX in 12 minutes.
Yes.
I like this.
With a 2-hour security wait at the beginning.
Exactly.
So
Well, yeah,
2
yeah.
hours
2 hours,
and 12
yeah.
minutes.
Yeah.
But still fast.
In the air,
Yeah.
door to door. Well,
And
at
it
least
made-
runway to runway in 12 minutes. I like this.
You're
I
gonna
like
have
how it made a controlled landing into the ocean.
like just kind of spinning
It was
out
controlled.
Yes, yeah. I want them to make sure they're confident that there won't be an ocean landing.
It's a 12-minute flight with a swim at the end.
Pond.
That's right. Drink your ginger ale fast, folks. We're going into the drink.
Hypothermia doesn't come in until at least 15 minutes, so you guys are good.
Stop. Mach 20, man. That's amazing.
Isn't that
so
great?
hot.
Yeah, I love
On
this.
to the calendar.
PS3 users, there's an updated firmware available today. So
Ooh.
go grab firmware 3.70 for cloud save uploads, trophy sync, and even some other goodies.
What features are they going to take away this time?
Linux. No, wait. Oh,
I already did that
You're
one.
such a pessimist. This is great.
It's Sony.
Okay, fine. It's not. So
people
don't
that brought you
don't
root
update.
kits.
Fine. Whatever you want to do. You guys. The Samsung Conquer 4G is available for pre-order. Normally, the Android phone costs $100, but Walmart is offering it for $0. But you have to sign up for a 2-year contract.
Of course.
If that sounds good to you, then Walmart's probably a good bet. Over the weekend, HP ran a promotion lowering the price of the touchpad by $100. We talked about this a little bit, but the price cut is now permanent. So now touchpads cost $400 for the 16-gigabyte version and $500 for the 32-gigabyte version.
I wish they could do that to tax cuts.
Yeah, the 32-gigabyte version is
Of tax cuts.
Wow, that's a lot of tax cuts.
Wouldn't that be nice? SETI Institute's telescopes have gone back online. And you know what this means? We are resuming the hunt for alien life, people. This week, the SETI, which is, of course, the Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence Institute, announced it had raised more than $200,000 from about 2,000 people. This was a fundraising effort that they launched earlier this spring, so a lot of people cared. The money will help the Institute put its Allen Telescope Array back online.
This is awesome. So SETI,
really awesome.
SETI went to the internet and said, look, we're not going to be able
We
to
can't
continue
do
this
this
unless we get the
anymore.
money. And
Yeah.
people responded. Our guy on the Squarespace testimonial, he's gone to Kickstarter. This is what the U.S. government should do.
Yeah.
Kickstarter.
A Kickstarter for the government.
A Kickstarter for the economy.
Yeah,
I love
exactly.
that.
It's also, I mean, $200,000 from about 2,000 people means that some people ponied up quite a bit of money.
Yeah.
So it wasn't necessarily like $5 from many people.
No, there were some big donors, yeah.
Big donors. That said, it's good news for SETI enthusiasts. Samsung Galaxy R is officially announced for Europe and Asia. Are you surprised?
I'm surprised no one did a pirate joke yet.
No, it's just the letter R, although it should be A-R-R. How many R's are in a
wonder what
pirate
that
R?
is. So
How do you spell the pirate R?
It's the one.
A-R-R-R-R.
Well, it's funny.
It's
is
as long as you want it to be, I
it's
guess.
the one after the Samsung Galaxy S, but it's the letter before S.
Well, this is backwards
It's going
land.
backwards.
No, I'm interested in seeing what that actually
I
means in the
believe
target
Apple has
market.
a patent on naming things in. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
Finally, Hulu has announced some good news to Hulu enthusiasts in Japan. They would like to roll out their service, and they plan to later this year.
Woohoo!
So anybody in Japan who wants Hulu,
Sorry, Canada.
hopefully you'll get it, before December.
And until then, the
Canada may be
VPN.
taken over by Japan by the end of the year. We don't know. You know, they could also
Actually,
get
their
over.
economy, we might be. But Japan's economy isn't it? China's going to take us all over. On to the email, TNT@twit.tv. Alex writes in and says, just saying, the U.S. shortage of bandwidth is because you have two competing and conflicting standards operating, CDMA and GSM. Most of the rest of the world has just GSM, so there is less redundancy and more free spectrum. I think that's oversimplifying it to say the only reason the U.S. has a alleged shortage of bandwidth is because of that. And you're only talking about wireless bandwidth here. I think there's plenty of other reasons, but I do think that's a fair point, that we have had up until now CDMA and GSM, and they're not interoperable. You can't have the roaming agreement, so they're not as efficient. LTE is not going to fix this, by the way,
Right, because
not everybody's using the same frequency ranges
honestly,
to run
though,
their LTE.
But it's not like either of these frequencies interfere with each other, and I think it probably has nothing to do with, I don't know, what the market will bear.
Yeah. Well, you know what's going to solve this is Light Squared. Something like Light Squared gets off the ground, and then you can have hundreds of companies all interoperable with roaming agreements, and then they can actually compete on service and price instead of just
Compete on service
locking
and
you
price.
in.
That sounds fair. What telco would want to do that, Tom?
I know, I'm talking crazy.
I know.
Next email we got from Tony in Michigan. This is in response to our conversation yesterday on what information could be extracted from those BBM messages during the London riots, for example. He says, many, many years ago, I was trained as a radio traffic analyst by the U.S. Army. Without knowing anything at all about the actual context of a message, you'd be amazed how much you can ascertain about an established or ad hoc communications network just by looking at who sent a message to whom, where it was sent from and received, and the time and frequency, how often, not radio frequency, of the transmission. In my day, the analysis was performed by people. In these times, a reasonably fast computer with the appropriate algorithm would be able to spec out a communications web in a very short amount of time. If you can identify just one person from this web as a participant in the riots, you would know who or his or her friends are and where and when they talk to each other. All this without needing to know what was actually in those messages.
That's a really good point. Now, that's not to say that once you know that stuff, you've got a conviction.
Right.
I mean, that's circumstantial evidence, and you have to have other supporting evidence and all of that. But it does. You can. What he's saying, I think, is right. You can learn a lot just from the patterns of communication without actually knowing the content of it.
Yeah, especially since a lot of this stuff was location based, and they were having a hard time knowing where people were going to convene next.
Right.
This could help them.
I'm fascinated by that stuff. I mean, it's really cool to think about how the technology that we just keep in our pocket right now have those unique identifiers. Like there's a unique BSSID for all of our Bluetooth chips in our phones, and then using something that records Bluetooth. If you've got lots of modules, say around a city or somewhere, you can say, "Hey, I've seen that ID before. That ID is always at TWiT at 9 a.m."
You're constantly pinging.
And that same ID also goes to somewhere in San Rafael.
Good reason to keep your Bluetooth off unless you're absolutely using it.
Yep.
Yep. All right, that's it for this episode of Tech News Today. Thanks to our Redditors at technewstoday.reddit.com. Over 1,800 of you in there submitting stories, voting things up and down. Appreciate your help. Thanks to Enjoy What You Have 83, Tony W, PC Guy 8888, Comp Fixer 87, Eliminate, No One Believes Me, Dr. Mom, and more. You too, Captain Kipper, for supporting us there. It helps us pick what stories we cover each day, and especially in a month like August, we need you guys. So thank you for being in there. Promote the bricks, it says here. We've got bricks up on the wall in there, and yours could be next to them. There's still a little bit of room. If you want to have a brick right here in the TWiT studios, go to bricks.twit.tv and put your message on it. Your name, your message, your missive, your wisdom could be up on that wall right now. Darren, what's going on with Hack 5?
Dude, you've got to go and check out HAK the number 5. Of course, this week we're going to have all sorts of great coverage from DEF CON, as well as got a great hack tip up there right now about probe requests and responses in Soviet Russia. You're going to love it.
Also, you have a great hat.
It's a hat from Soviet Russia, actually.
Exactly.
In Soviet Russia, responses hack you.
Probes, responses hack you, probe you.
Yeah.
They'll do all that.
Don't probe me, bro. That's it for this episode of Tech News Today. You can find us on the web, twit.tv/TNT. You can email us, TNT@twit.tv, or give us a call. Our number is 260-TNT-SHOW. We'll see you tomorrow.